Today's Monday, January 26th, 2026. This is First Alert Weather Plus. Meteorologist Nicholas Snyder here talking about some of the impacts that we did see with this ice storm and the winter storm that we did see over the weekend, as well as a lot of other things. So let's get right into it right now. Of course, we're talking about the Arctic blast coming our way on top of the storm recap that we did see. Could even be some snow mixed in with that as well. And we're also talking about the long-term pattern, how things are going to shape up over the long term. And when we could finally see a warm-up, we could see that maybe coming sometime soon or not. So we'll talk about that coming up here on this episode of First Alert Weather Plus. Let's first talk about some of the reports that we did see. This report was up in Athens County, Ohio. 8 inches of snow that was taken, 7 a.m. Eastern time this morning. This was at near Athens. 8 inches of snow currently on the ground up there from, again, the storm that we did see over the weekend. So a lot more snow up in southern Ohio compared to other parts of the area, but the other parts of the area got bigger impacts. Into Kanawha County, this was ground zero for major ice storm over here. 0.8 of an inch of ice. This was reported in Dunbar yesterday at 8:19 a.m. A tree down as well from the ice storm that we did see. So bigger impacts from the ice for sure. We saw a lot of that also into parts of eastern Kentucky. And we also saw a whole lot of rain yesterday. Each climate site within our area actually saw their maximum amount of rainfall record broken yesterday. And with that, we did have some creek and stream floods over toward the Hamlin area. Lincoln County, for instance, saw localized flooding around Griffithsville. Pictures showing Straight Fork close to going over its banks. And there was a flood warning at a time yesterday for parts of the coal fields as well. So whole lot of stuff that did happen, and things were not very ideal. A lot of power outages yesterday. I want to bring in our chief meteorologist, Tony Cavalier, here to talk about what we did see from the system. Quite an active system that we did see yesterday, Tony.
Yeah, that winter storm, a lot of folks were saying, we didn't get the snow you forecasted. Well, let's say we got about half that because that storm was going into Monday, of course. But you and Dylan were out in front with the ice and the accumulation causing power outs. And I know I mentioned as early as Thursday night, plowable amounts of sleet. It was going to be the relative proportions of rain, sleet, and snow that was going to determine the snow accumulation. And here's an interesting tidbit. When I was going home on Saturday night, we all worked that night, and you had left just a few minutes before me, having looked at the new runs of the European model, I still wasn't convinced what was going to happen. We're talking right up to the event really getting going. So it just shows you how difficult it is. But we were spot on the impacts. Maybe not on the number of inches, but as I like to say, if we knew the number of inches exactly, guess what? We'd have penthouse suites in Manhattan overlooking Wall Street, and we'd be making millions and millions trading the commodity markets.
For sure, Tony. Let's talk about the ice storm and kind of where this stacks up in comparison. You've covered so many events over the years. As far as this ice storm is concerned, where does this stack up for you?
Well, let's look back to the dual ice storms in 2021. Over a 10-day period, we had back-to-back ice storms, and that was a much broader reach over the three-state area. This one was more confined to the coal fields into the Kanawha Valley. And as ice storms go, it was a good one for West Virginia and Kentucky, but not a great one for a couple of reasons. Number one, the sleet that fell. Sleet is actually part of an ice storm. But when the meteorologist thinks ice storm, he likes to or she likes to think of the amount of accretion on power lines and on tree branches. And sleet doesn't accumulate. It does at ground level, but not on tree branches. You won't have a sleet storm that has power outs. So in this regard, this was a good, healthy ice storm, but not of the great variety that knocked out power to hundreds of thousands. Although tens of thousands would take exception to what I just said, those who were out and maybe still without power.
And we also had a little friendly competition going on in the weather office, and you ended up being the winner. Talk about that. The snowfall in Athens over there in southern Ohio.
You and Emily, of course, are from Athens, Ohio, or as far as Athens, OU. And so I said, well, let's go ahead and take a look at the amount of snow. And I think we were anywhere from 9 to 14 inches. And just north of for example, Athens County, there were 14-inch reports, and over toward Columbus. So everybody was in the ballpark, and now I have a new actual contest that we're at. We have to have some type of a payout when these occur, but I'm just interested in the 5-day forecast going ahead, the low temperature. So we're grabbing Dylan's from this morning, mine from last night, yours from midday, and Emily from tonight, and we're going to compare those. And I think what you're going to see is we're all in the ballpark, and that's important to understand because we have a consensus way of forecasting here at WSAZ. Dylan and Nicholas are out in front. They're superior forecasters than I am. I'm good. I'm not shabby, but they are superior because they dissect the information from A to Z, and they look for even a 1-degree spread in temperature, as opposed to I'm more of an old school forecaster going for a number that is something that people will recognize. So I have 0s and 5s in mine. You guys have 1s and 2s and 3s. I go generically, and I'm just anxious. I'm going to try to suggest to you guys that you guys are better by a degree or two, but not super superior. We'll see if that comes true.
And speaking of the Arctic cold, I had asked you earlier during our 5 or 6 p.m. newscast when I was making the thumbnail for this episode of First Alert Weather Plus, how long has it been since we've seen cold as what we're forecasting here during the overnight time frame of tonight as well as Thursday night, Friday night, and into Saturday morning? I think Saturday morning is going to be one of the coldest ones we've seen in a while.
I take you back to 2014. I think that was the year that the polar vortex was first, I don't want to say sensationalized, but was first brought into the news business. I had used it as early as 1989 with the Christmas polar vortex. But basically, this will be the coldest spell since 2014. So if you know of utilities that failed that year, you should expect that somewhere close to you, there will be some utility failures. So take proper precautions. I've got my basin underneath the sink. I've got the doors open. I've got the trickle of water going through. And I'm just hoping that I don't lose power. I don't have a water leak, something like that, because this will be something that I think we'll see many water main breaks here this week. The infrastructure, especially after 2 very hard summers, now a second consecutive hard winter, I think that's going to play havoc with the infrastructure that in many cities was laid out in the early 20th century, so more than 100 years old. I'm not sure it's going to be able to handle it.
Back to the ice storm, we were talking about a good ice storm over here, but some locations outside of our area saw a great ice storm. We're seeing videos from Nashville. Talk a little bit about just what's going on down there and things that really we dodged a bullet from, for sure.
The ice storm is what convinced me to go in to be a meteorologist, because I wanted to wait for the creeks and the streams to freeze in Philadelphia so I could play ice hockey. And in the late 60s, we had a couple of great ice storms. And I can still remember, Nicholas, the crackling of the trees in the teeth of the wind. And that sensation still plays on my mind. And down in Dixie, rain at 20 degrees in Nashville, for example, falling for hours on end, accreting, I think I read in a couple cases close to 1 inch on top of power lines, recognizing that a 1/4 inch is enough to cause power lines to have issues. Throw in wind, and those power lines can start a phenomenon known as galloping, where they literally produce the sinusoids that we study in meteorology, the sine waves. And that is a great ice storm when you have 20-degree temperatures, not 20s, but 20, and it raining hard, and the wind blowing. That's a sign of a truly historic ice storm.
Yeah, and speaking of that ice storm in Nashville, we have stories out of that, and we're going to take a look at some of the reports down there. It's pretty incredible what we're about to see.
It was a matter of preparation for crews and the community.
We didn't try to stockpile or anything like that. We just got the essentials.
Dylan Downs isn't new to dealing with a power outage, having grown up in Kentucky.
I went through the ice storm of 2009. I think we were 13 days without power then. I lived way out in the country, my family and I did. So we had to survive with a gas heater, thankfully, and just whatever we could get our hands on to eat for almost 2 weeks.
Downs says he's prepared to be patient as he's one of thousands without power.
There's still cold weather and precipitation, so we do suspect that throughout today and tonight, we could potentially still fight those outage restorations with outages that will start to come in after we may restore some stuff.
The Nashville Electric Service says this will be a longer outage, lasting days, if not longer.
And some of the pictures of those trees, I mean, they are way down, and that's what's causing all the power outages that we did see, at least in our area and all the way down into Tennessee, where they had an even more major ice storm there. I want to thank Chief Meteorologist Tony Cavalier for joining us this evening as well to provide his perspective on what we did see. Of course, now we have to talk about what's headed our way in terms of the Arctic cold. That's the next thing with this system. And again, if you don't have power, I've been saying this for the last 5 days. You're going to want to find a way to stay warm because things are about to get ugly overnight tonight. We're talking about a big-time temperature drop, and that temperature drop is going to allow us to see wind chills that will be below zero in some spots. It's thanks to this polar vortex right here. Let me highlight that for you in red. Notice all of this coming down into our area. That's that cold Arctic air, this little swirl right here. And that's what's moving in as we head later on into the night. And again, if you're without power, you're going to need a generator or you're going to need to find a way to stay warm with a battery-powered space heater or anything like that. Going to a warming shelter will be very beneficial here. Let's talk about a few of the things that are headed our way. We have this next little disturbance up here that's also going to play into how cold we're going to get. Now, we do have a little bit of warm air out ahead of this, so tomorrow afternoon actually will not be too bad. We should raise those temperatures back up into the upper 20s and lower 30s, but thanks to this Arctic high that's overhead tonight, that's why we're really going to drop those temperatures. But with that minor disturbance coming in tomorrow, we get southerly winds out ahead of it, and so we should recover. Even with a little sunshine in the afternoon, the snow squalls are going to go away as well, so that's very beneficial. Now as we move into, let's say, Tuesday evening, this disturbance tries to work its way into the area, and it will come through as a weak front. So once again, a few flurries could be a possibility as this disturbance kind of lifts up any lingering moisture in the air downwind of that. And we could see, again, a few more flurries like we're seeing tonight, maybe a squall or two like we're seeing tonight as well. I don't think it's going to be quite as significant as what we're seeing today with the lowered visibility, quick inch of snow on the ground, things like that. But that comes through on Tuesday night into Wednesday. Should dry you out on Wednesday, but another disturbance now. Right in here. This will be set to move in on Wednesday night into Thursday. So more flurries expected on Wednesday night. Again, more bursts of snow, quick bursts of snow with that lifting of any lingering moisture that's in the atmosphere. And that's going to push in the coldest air of the season so far after that, setting stage for a very chilly weekend. Here's that polar vortex right in here. You can see the kink in these lines, and that's moving itself down here. We have a really good graphical demonstration on what's about to happen with this here as far as the temperatures are concerned. So again, there's Tuesday night into Wednesday, a little disturbance there. Thursday, a little bit of a break, and then boom, Friday into Saturday. This is probably going to be the coldest air of 2026 and likely the coldest air we've seen in 2 or 3 years. That is going to be moving itself into the area on Friday night into Saturday. So we're going to watch this very closely. Saturday morning, we could have actual air temperatures in the negatives with actual wind chills reaching, let's say, 5 to 10, maybe even 20 degrees below zero over the widespread area. If you get clear skies and calm conditions, that's really going to help things as well. So again, not setting up for the best situation here. Let's take a look at the European model's temperatures. Again, overnight tonight, getting to near 0 degrees, some spots below zero. Case in point, let's say the Portsmouth area at -3, Spencer -1, Gallipolis -2, Athens -5. Bit of a break on Wednesday, and then again, Wednesday night into Thursday, same kind of deal where we start to get those negative temperatures. -4 Portsmouth, -7 Gallipolis, -14 Athens, 1 in Huntington. Again, this is the European model. This is not an actual forecast, just showing you what this model's thoughts are on the temperatures here. Friday night, even cooler, -10 in Athens. And Saturday morning, look at this. This is just downright frigid. A lot of us below zero. And a lot of models are kind of agreeing with this sentiment here. Here's the European model's wind chills. We're 10 to 15 below zero as you're waking up tomorrow morning. Bit of a break on Thursday. 0 to 5 degrees below zero on a Thursday morning. Let's say -1 to -20 degrees, really depending on where you are on Friday. And then we're well below zero into the minus 20 to 25 degree range as we head into Saturday morning for those feels-like temperatures. Another one of our models, this is the National Weather Service model, showing kind of a similar situation. It's a little bit less intense than what the European model is showing, but again, single-digit lows widespread tonight, as well as once we head into Wednesday night. Friday morning, Thursday night, again, we start to get below zero, and again, very, very cold temperatures waking up on Saturday. Feels like temperatures to near minus 10 tomorrow morning on the National Weather Service model here. Single digits on Thursday morning. It gives us a bit of a break here. And then, again, going back below zero on Friday morning, with negative teens for a lot of us expected by the time we reach Saturday morning. So again, this is the coldest air likely that we've seen in multiple years. It doesn't help that we're not seeing power in many spots. In fact, because we're seeing those power outages, that is going to create a very tricky situation for those of us in the Kanawha Valley and into the coal fields, where we saw that just nasty, nasty weather really this weekend with that ice storm developing in. It was a pretty big ice storm that came through indeed, and that's what caused all the knocked power. Meanwhile, yes, I know we've heard a lot of hype on social media about a potential storm to impact the East Coast. And people have been asking me about it all day today. We got to take what we learned from this last storm and apply it here. There's going to be a lot of changes until we really kind of get within the next couple of days. This morning's model runs were showing, yes, good thump of snow for the region. That was mainly the European model that was showing that. The American and Canadian models were not quite in the ballpark of this. Now during the midday runs, every model takes this out to sea. But again, this could change. But I don't want to hype anybody up or at least cause any panic among people. There's still a lot of uncertainty. Just know that once this kind of piece of energy here starts developing with that colder air that's coming in on Saturday, it remains to be seen whether it comes back this way, makes its way back on shore, or goes out to sea. The consensus is right now it goes back out to sea, but again, that's all up in the air and could change. There's the center of it on Sunday, and again, most of the energy, or at least the disturbance, is right about here as opposed to being back here. Back here would cause a lot of problems. If it's centered over Charleston, you're talking about quite a bit of heavy snow falling over the region in cold air, meaning that's an efficient accumulating snow. This time last week, we thought our weekend storm was going to be an all-snow event. It was a question of whether the storm could even reach us, and we saw obviously what happened with that storm. Of course, again, things could change. There's a lot up in the air, so we'll keep you updated. That's the European model's version of things, and again, that was the midday run of it. The American model's been pretty consistent out to sea. The American model was also pretty consistent further to the south with this storm, and again, we saw what happened with it. So ultimately, we'll have to see. But right now, a lot of agreement is taking this out to sea with a thump of snow for areas down into South Carolina, parts of North Carolina, and maybe along the East Coast. Let's dive into the science behind what would cause this. So I want you to notice these streamlines here. I believe this is the European model. Yes, this is the European model as well. We have these winds coming ashore from the Atlantic, transporting moisture. We also have warm air being transported in here as well. When cold air comes into contact with that warm air, the warm air lifts up and over it, and that produces that precipitation, and that's what we're going to be seeing, at least of this model run, according to the Euro, along the I-95 corridor. So we could see a little bit of snow along I-95. Meanwhile, we're buried in this deep polar vortex right here, and that cold air is going to keep things dry. We're seeing a northerly wind, not an easterly wind. That northerly wind brings in dry conditions from Canada. That's a good scenario. Even though Saturday morning is going to be extremely cold, this is a good scenario. We don't want to be seeing a whole lot of snow over the weekend, especially because of the ice that we have on the ground right now. So if the midday Euro run is correct, we escape with barely any impacts for the weekend, and that would be great. Let's talk about, of course, the American model solution, and it's showing very similar solution. Again, there's that cold air moving in on Saturday and Saturday night, and this takes it even more out to sea. Again, we're getting this northerly dry wind that hinders any snow from getting in, And the snow would basically be set up here along the I-95 corridor where you see that wind kind of converging together here in the low levels, creating a little bit of a band of snow and rising motion above that convergence. Again, that's one model run. Things could change, but I do want to show you kind of where we're trending and how things are looking here as far as that. So let's go to our other weather computer here, and I want to give you an idea of just exactly what we're looking at. So these are our computer models right here. Great site called Pivotal Weather that gives us a chance to look at all of these models, and this is many runs of the European model. So essentially, you take one run of the European model and you run it a bunch of times. You change certain conditions here or there, things like that, to kind of give you an idea of how much agreement among this model there is in seeing at least 4 inches of snow. So this is a probability of 4 inches of snow at least. This is the latest run right here, our 12Z run. This runs at 8 a.m., gets finished done running at about 2 p.m. I want to go all the way back to Friday's run, and you see there's a bit more of an agreement here, but I want to show you a noticeable trend that we did see, and this is what had a lot of people concerned. So let's start at yesterday's, or rather Saturday's morning to midday run. And then we'll move it forward. You'll notice a bit more agreement down toward the Myrtle Beach area. This is yesterday's midday run, and this is today's morning run. This is the morning run that comes in at about 2 a.m. Notice a lot more agreement of some heavier snow with a little bit of agreement. Now, again, 5 to 7 days out, 12% is actually a pretty solid number that you look in these ensembles. A little bit more of an agreement with this morning's run. Now watch what happens. This is our latest run. It pushes it back out to sea, but a lot more agreement of seeing a good thump of snow areas like the Outer Banks, areas like this little area in Virginia right here to the east of the Chesapeake Bay, Delaware, places like that, New Jersey, New York. So that's a trend we'll have to watch. Notice again, this is where we were headed this morning. This is where we were headed by the middle portions of the day. Meanwhile, only a 6% chance, 8% chance of even getting 4 inches of snow in Nicholas County. So, again, things are shifting and things are worth watching. Let's look at the Canadian. This is another one of our models we like to use. And again, it's showing a clear trend from where we were yesterday, at least until this latest run. So this is yesterday's morning run to midday run. Nothing really going on there, just a little bit of light snow here or there. This is the midday run, or the evening run, I should say, of the Canadian. Takes it down to Myrtle Beach and the Outer Banks. This is last night's run. This is an early morning run of it. This is the morning run here at 12Z. Again, this is that morning to midday run, showing a bit further west of a trend, and then our evening run today kicks it back further to the east. So again, things are really all over the place. And why I really like to mention this is when you have a lot of unstableness in the models, instability, not a whole lot of model agreement, that's a clear sign that there's really not a whole lot to be known just yet. I don't think the models have a good grasp on this storm. That said, there's still a chance it could hit us. There is also a pretty solid chance, I think. I am very not much sold on this system, and I think there's a very solid chance this misses us and just kind of becomes an East Coast to an Atlantic Ocean system. That was the American model. My bad. Let's go to the Canadian model. This was yesterday's morning run. It backed away in the evening. This was Saturday's morning run. My apologies. This backed away in the evening, like I said earlier. Really backed away yesterday morning. Came back down toward the Myrtle Beach area by the time we head toward last night's run. And then watch what happens this morning. Comes back a little bit into our neck of the woods right here. Why I don't buy this, again, we have those northerly winds. We also have to have a very strong amount of moisture kind of transporting a lot of Atlantic Ocean moisture into our region to slope over the Appalachians, overcome a downsloping wind, which is a drying wind, and it would have to reach the Charleston area. That's a lot to accomplish here. It's certainly a possibility. Again, we've seen it before, but with just how uncertain the models are, I should say, there's just not a good handle on this storm just yet. And that's why that's why personally I'm not sold on it. But again, we'll have to watch it and we'll ultimately see where it does track. The coming days will be very telling. We'll see with Dylan tomorrow morning what the models do. If it continues that trend back to sea, again, this is what had everybody worried this morning, is this thump of snow. This was last night's run. Notice what happened this morning, though, or this midday, though. Well off to shore, most of the snow falling in the Outer Banks. So again, doesn't have a good handle on it right now. Not totally sold, but we'll have to see ultimately. Again, I think by, let's say, Thursday, Wednesday, we'll have a very good handle on what this system is going to do and what track this is going to take and what the impacts will be, if there are any, to the United States. The American model's been pretty consistently away from us. Granted, the American model was consistently away from us until the last 48 hours of this system. So I'm taking the American model with a grain of salt, personally. It had not performed very well with the last system. Here's the Canadian model, and again, it's pretty much just all over the place at this point. You can't even pick out a solid trend. So I think this model, once again, with the best kind of handle on this, even though it doesn't really have a solid handle just yet, is the European model, at least showing a decent trend on this. And we'll have to see, again, if this band of snow can make it as far west as the Charleston area. And again, I think by Wednesday, Thursday, we'll have a pretty good handle on what this system is going to do and where we stand for the second half of the weekend. It's not a Friday issue, definitely. Will not be a Saturday issue as well. More Saturday night into Sunday is something where we're going to have to watch this, maybe even Sunday night into Monday as well. But we'll keep a close eye on it for you. By the way, I wanted to show some pictures from this storm that we did see over the weekend. The ice just bending over some of those trees. Pretty remarkable picture. This was sent in from Minnie in Floyd County. Good amount of snow. 2nd Street in Portsmouth from 2 days ago. There's some ice accumulating on some power lines here. Let's go further up. This is a great picture from Lisa of that ice accumulating on some tree berries right there. Snow on the pond from Josh a day ago. So lots of winter weather that we did see over the last couple of days, and definitely more on the way with definite Arctic cold and maybe some potential snow as we head into the weekend. All right, now let's take a look at those long-term forecasts here. We like to use that Madden-Julian oscillation as a starting point. As we know, we got back into that warm phase for much of the end of December into the beginning of January, but as we head into February, look at this, back into this side of the phase until we hit to the end of February. That would hint at an early spring here once we head toward the middle and end of February, back into Phase 3. Phase 3 is a warm phase of the Madden-Julian oscillation, so if we do see that, that could hint at some better conditions toward mid-February, toward the end of February, but last week of January into early February, 812, that is a cold sign. That's the European model solution here. See if we could get a longer-term forecast here. And again, a lot of this showing very similar situations going from 8 to 1 to 2, which is that cold phase. The right side of this diagram, again, is the warm. The left side of this diagram is the cold. Let's go to some American solutions. Now, the American model wants to keep us cold all the way through, let's say, late February. This one, on the other hand, wants to keep us cold through about mid-February, takes us back into the warmer phase by the time we reach the end of February. So I think the common solution here is that it looks like through mid-February, colder conditions, and then more spring-like as we head into the end of February. This is certainly supported by our North Atlantic oscillation forecast, which keeps us negative through mid-February. Arctic oscillation is one of the most negative solutions I've seen in my entire life, which is why we're seeing this polar vortex break up and bring in all this cold to the area. The Arctic oscillation is the polar vortex. When you have that positive, we get splits in that polar vortex. We send multiple vortices down into the further south locations, further equatorward locations, and that's why we're seeing this break off of that and this very cold weather overhead right now. Let's go back to the other weather computer here, and I want to show you exactly what our European model is saying. So again, Positive Arctic oscillation right here. What does that mean? It means the polar vortex is weak, so we're sending splits of that down further to the south. That's certainly what we're seeing here. The North Atlantic oscillation is positive. Eastern Pacific oscillation's also in its negative phase, so we're seeing this warm air surge up into the western United States, and meanwhile that cold air being dumped further to the south. And we'll continue to see that, again, through the long term until that MJO gets back into phases, let's say 3, 4, 5 here, which again is slated not to happen until the end of February here. Closer look at this showing very similar situation. Again, we'll have to watch this little piece of energy down here as to what it's going to do with that storm threat over the weekend. Again, not a whole lot of certainty associated with this right now, but we'll keep you updated. Right now, again, I want to stress this. Our latest data is suggesting this goes out to sea with a very small chance of impacting us. But this could change. We'll let you know about it. We'll continue to see those cold temperatures. I want to stress, too, with that storm threat, this past weekend, as much as it was somewhat of a miss for us in our forecast, the winter storm actually coming, the system actually coming was a slam dunk. It was showing up on every single model. It was a very strong signal for a winter storm. This one is a much weaker and more uncertain signal. So this is by no means a slam dunk for anyone. So a lot could change in the coming days, like I've been saying. 6 to 10-day temperature outlook remains on the cool side from the Climate Prediction Center with drier than normal conditions on the 10-day temperature precipitation outlook, as well. Super 7-day forecast time. Again, I want to give that spotlight to Saturday morning, which is likely going to be the coldest morning we've seen in quite some time. Down to 3 below in Huntington, let's say down to 5 or 10 below in some of those rural locations with feels like temperatures reaching into the negative 20s. And again, there's that run of the European model this morning. This had snow all the way back to I-77 and the Huntington area right here. Right now, the snow stops at Roanoke. Again, we'll have to see ultimately what happens. We're keeping you updated, but there's so much uncertainty here at this point. Could see a few flurries in the mountains on this solution here of the European model as well. This is First Alert Weather Plus, where we give you the first alert to anything headed your way, talk about impactful weather, and dive into why the weather is occurring, as well as that data. We air every Monday at 6:30 to 6:45 p.m. on WSAZ Plus. You can stream us on the WSAZ News app on your phone, as well as on Roku, Fire Stick, any smart TV device that you have. You can find us on the App Store of your smart TV. We also have a YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe to that. It is WSAZ First Alert Weather Plus. If you missed this episode, you can go there and stream that episode online. You can also find us on WSAZ.com in the First Alert Weather Plus tab with all the past episodes there. In the meantime, follow us all on Facebook. I'm meteorologist Nicholas Snyder on Facebook. Dylan Godet is Dylan Godet Weather. We have meteorologist Emily Dietz on Facebook, and Tony Cavalier is Tony Cavalier on Facebook. Make it a great Monday, everybody.